Hello, it's nice to meet you again. In the last 3 lectures, we learned how to read and write Korean. Today, we'll focus on mastering the essential Korean language skills needed to live in Korea. To effectively learn survival Korean, we need to understand and use 5 key principles. Let's go through these principles step by step. The first principle is, understand the necessary expressions for each step in a 4-step communication process. When you're in Korea, you'll often need to communicate to buy goods or services. These interactions usually involve 4 steps. First, greetings when you meet. Second, buying goods or services. Next, paying for purchases. And finally, greetings when you leave. Knowing the expressions for each step will help you navigate many situations in Korea. As an example, when you enter a convenience store to buy a bottle of water, you will go through these 4 procedural steps. First, you will probably greet the salesperson by saying,
안녕하세요.
and then you can buy a bottle of water by saying.
생수 한 병 주세요.
The expression
주세요.
can be used for any buying situation or asking for something you want. As a third step, you may ask what the price of the water is by saying.
얼마예요?
Finally, you may say,
안녕히 계세요.
when you leave the store after paying for the water. Thus, if you know the expressions used for each step, you can successfully communicate with a salesperson to buy what you want. I summarized the Korean expressions along with the corresponding English expressions in the table shown on the screen. Let's take a closer look at the expressions needed for each step. A necessary expression for the first step
안녕하세요.
is an expression that can be used when meeting someone regardless of time. It is similar to hello or how's it going in English.
안녕.
Can be used with friends or when you are older than the other person. If you are not in close relationship, it is recommended to use the expression.
안녕하세요.
The expression
주세요.
is an expression used when purchasing a product or requesting a service. The English equivalents are I'm looking for a desired item or I need a desired item. The Korean expression
주세요.
literally means please, give me a desired item. A necessary expression for the third step
얼마예요?
is used to check the price of the product or service. Of course, it can be unnecessary if you already know the price. However, it is useful when you need to confirm the cost before purchasing. The last expression
안녕히 계세요.
is used when leaving a place. If you are the one leaving, you say,
안녕히 계세요.
which means please, stay well. If someone else is leaving, you can say,
안녕히 가세요.
which means please, go well in English. In summary, there are 4 procedural steps to make a purchase, and the expressions required for each step are.
안녕하세요. 주세요. 얼마예요? 안녕히 계세요.
If you remember these expressions, you can successfully buy what you need in most situations. When purchasing a service other than a product, the expressions required in the first, third, and fourth step can be used as they are. One thing to be aware of is the second step, the purchase step. This is because various expressions are possible depending on what service is purchased. It can be complicated and difficult because it requires various expressions, but if you understand the 2 situations in purchasing a service, remember and use the necessary expressions in each situation, you will be able to successfully purchase the service you want. In situations where you want a service similar to purchasing a product, you can use straightforward expressions. For example, if you're thirsty on an airplane and want orange juice, you can say,
오렌지 주스 주세요.
which means please, give me orange juice. This mirrors the way you'd request a specific item when buying a product. However, some services involve specific actions rather than requesting a tangible item. For instance, at a restaurant, if you want the server to clean a table, you can say,
식탁 좀 치워주세요.
meaning please, clear the table or
식탁 좀 닦아주세요.
meaning please wipe the table. At a hair salon, if you want to get a perm, you can say,
파마해주세요.
which means please perm my hair. Similarly, for hair dye, you can say,
염색해주세요.
meaning please dye my hair. When taking a taxi, you can tell the driver your destination by saying,
목적지 가주세요.
for example, if you are going to,
경복궁,
you can say,
경복궁. 가주세요.
as such, the second service purchase situation may require various expressions. Therefore, it is necessary to check the expressions necessary for each service purchase situation. However, regardless of the specific service, you can use the pattern, a service you want, plus, yo, or a service you want, plus, EO, to express your request. For example, at a hair salon, instead of saying,
파마해주세요.
you can also say,
파마요.
similarly, instead of saying,
염색해주세요.
you can say,
염색이요.
when requesting a destination, you can say,
경복궁. 가주세요.
or,
경복궁이요.
the expression, a service you want, plus, yo, or a service you want, plus, EO, is analogous to the English expression, a service, please. When the preceding service ends in a vowel, you can use the complementary, yo. For example, the service, PAMA, ends in a vowel, you can say.
파마요.
On the other hand, when the preceding service ends in a consonant, you use the complementary, EO. Thus, you can say,
염색이요.
the expressions,
식탁 좀 치워주세요.
or,
식탁 좀 닦아주세요.
can be simply described as,
식탁이요.
when you just say,
식탁이요.
to a server, the server will check the table's condition, and can infer that you mean,
식탁 좀 치워주세요.
or.
식탁 좀 닦아주세요.
This will be explained in more detail in the third principle, sharing responsibility for conversation. This principle, sharing responsibility for conversation, motivates the other person to understand your intention even if your initial expression isn't perfect. In summary, remember that the expressions necessary for service purchase situations vary based on the context. However, the a service you want, plus, yo, or a service you want, plus, EO, pattern is a useful starting point. The expressions necessary for the 4 procedural steps introduced in the product purchase situation are summarized along with the service purchase situation as follows. In conclusion, by learning and practicing these expressions, you can communicate successfully in many Korean communication situations. The reason why the second principle is needed is as follows. In the first principle, Step 1, Step 3, and Step 4 can communicate successfully with only one expression.
안녕하세요. 얼마예요? 안녕히 계세요.
Respectively. So, the success or failure of completing Survival Korean determines whether you can communicate successfully in Step 2, buying. This is because various expressions are needed depending on what products or services you purchase. For example, at a convenience store, you can buy bottled water with just the expression.
생수 한 병 주세요.
However, buying shoes is more complex. You can't just say,
이 신발 주세요.
because the salesperson will ask for your size and color. To prepare for this, you need to practice the specific expressions you will need. That is, if your shoe size is 265 millimeters, you should be able to say,
265 주세요.
or.
265요.
Also, if you want pink shoes, you should be able to say,
분홍색 주세요.
or.
분홍색이요.
So, before you purchase shoes, check how you express your size 265 in Korean, and if you can express your desired color pink in Korean, you can successfully purchase a pair of shoes you want. In summary, the second principle, goal-oriented communication, is a principle of utilization that prepares you for communication by checking and practicing the expressions necessary to purchase a specific product before purchasing your specific product. The perspective that the second principle, goal-oriented communication, is efficient is based on the following view. Think of it like a job interview. It's challenging because you don't know the questions in advance. But if you did, you could prepare and practice your answers, making the experience much less intimidating. In the same sense, your shopping experience will be much more enjoyable if you are ready to communicate in Korean. Before going shopping, use a translator or ask people around you for help to practice the expressions that you need to buy a certain goods or a service. This is called goal-oriented communication, preparing and practicing the specific phrases you need to reach your goal, buying a certain goods or a service. By using goal-oriented communication, you can successfully navigate most situations in Korea. To effectively utilize the second principle, goal-oriented communication, you need to know what conversations will occur and what expressions you'll need. This leads us to the third principle, which we will discuss next. The third principle is universal core. This principle helps you understand common features in communication across different countries or cultures, making it easier to navigate conversations in various situations. The universal core can be subdivided into 3 categories. The first one is universal core in a broad sense. The universal core in a broad sense is based on the idea that there are common elements in communication situations across different countries and cultures. For example, the steps involved in making a purchase are similar worldwide. When you buy something, you will follow the 4-step procedure: greeting, buying, paying, and greeting to part, and these steps are common in many countries, not just in Korea. Similarly, when buying shoes or clothes, salespeople everywhere ask for size and color. By understanding these commonalities, you can anticipate what expressions you'll need in Korea based on your experiences in your own country. The second category of universal core is universal core in a narrow sense. Universal core in a narrow sense is based on the view that certain expressions can be used in common in various communication situations. For example,
주세요.
is a common expression that can be used in all product purchase situations. Also,
안녕하세요.
is an expression that can be used to meet someone regardless of time. The expression
얼마예요?
can be used to check the price in all purchasing situations. Also,
안녕히 계세요.
is an expression that can be passed on to the person who remains in a certain place when you leave the place, even if it is not in a purchasing situation. Meanwhile,
표 2장 주세요.
can be used in all service purchase situations such as concerts, baseball stadiums, museums, movie theaters, so on, where admission tickets are required. If you use the universal core in a narrow sense in your Korean communication, you can significantly reduce the burden of learning various expressions necessary for communication. Finally, let's learn about the linguistic universal core. It is the principle of utilization that all Korean expressions have the same meaning no matter which country in the world they are used. For example, the expression
얼마예요?
is not just a price confirmation expression in Korea, but it is also used anywhere in the world with the same meaning. Likewise, the expression
주세요.
which can be used to purchase a product or request something, is also used with the same meaning not only in Korea but also anywhere in the world. In other words, this makes learning Korean more manageable and effective. To sum up, the universal core in a broad sense is a common feature in communication situations between different countries or between different cultures. By understanding these shared characteristics, you can predict and prepare Korean expressions needed for specific conversations. In other words, it can facilitate goal-oriented communication, allowing you to anticipate and tailor your language. Meanwhile, the universal core in a narrow sense focuses on expressions that can be universally used in various communication contexts. For example, the Korean expression
주세요.
applies to all product purchase situations. If you utilize the universal core in a narrow sense, you can efficiently complete survival Korean communication skills without checking and memorizing many expressions necessary for various Korean communication situations. The linguistic universal core is the principle that Korean expressions used in Korea maintain the same meaning worldwide. Learning Korean locally ensures consistency when used in Korea. In summary, understanding and applying the universal core enhance your Korean communication skills efficiently, both within Korea and beyond. The fourth principle is sharing responsibility for conversation. This principle acknowledges that when your Korean language skills are limited, you can effectively communicate in Korean by shifting more responsibility to the other person. Imagine you are an English speaker and someone approaches you and says, "Excuse me, bakery?" Even if their English isn't perfect, you can understand they are asking for directions to a bakery. This is because you, as the listener, take on more responsibility to understand the message despite the imperfections. Similarly, when you speak limited Korean,
실례합니다. 제과점,
which translates to "excuse me, bakery," the listener can accurately understand your intention, that is, you're asking for directions to a bakery. Even if you do not convey all necessary information, the Korean listener can fill in the gaps based on context. And as mentioned earlier, even if you tell the staff at the restaurant,
여기요. 식탁이요.
they understand that you mean,
식탁 좀 치워주세요.
or.
식탁 좀 닦아주세요.
In essence, the principle is that others can understand your speech intentions, even if your expression isn't perfect. This concept is known as sharing responsibility for conversation. When applying this principle to Korean communication, you can effectively communicate even with limited language skills by allowing the other person to take on more conversational responsibility. As your Korean communication skills improve, you can gradually assume a greater role in the conversation. The fifth principle, a strategy of transmitting information piece by piece, highlights the importance of breaking down complex information into smaller, more manageable parts to improve communication. Let's explore why this strategy is valuable and how it can enhance language competence by comparing two different communication situations. When giving a speech, you bear the full responsibility of conveying a large amount of information, which can be challenging, especially with limited language skills. In contrast, during an interview, you only need to answer the interviewer's questions. Here, the responsibility of the conversation is shared with the interviewer, which helps to compensate for any language limitations. By applying both the sharing responsibility for conversation and the strategy of transmitting information piece by piece, you can effectively communicate even with limited Korean language skills. To illustrate this, imagine you're buying a pair of running shoes in Korea. If you provide all the details, such as size and color, at once, you might say,
분홍색 러닝화. 265 주세요.
which translates to pink running shoes, size 265, please. However, applying the fifth principle simplifies this process. When the salesperson asks, "What shoes are you looking for?" you can simply reply,
러닝화요.
meaning, running shoes, please. Even with just this brief response, the salesperson will understand that you're looking for running shoes. Then, when the salesperson asks, "What size would you like?" and you reply,
265요.
they will understand that your shoe size is 265 millimeters. Finally, when asked, "What color would you like?" and you say,
분홍색이요.
the salesperson will know that you want the pink color. In conclusion, this strategy enhances communication efficiency, particularly when language skills are still developing. The table shown on the screen summarizes this explanation. By combining both principles, you can significantly increase your success rate in Korean communication. Let's revisit the example of buying bottled water at a convenience store that was introduced earlier. To purchase bottled water, you need to be able to say,
생수 한 병 주세요.
which means 1 bottle of water, please. However, if you simply say,
생수요.
meaning water, please, the salesperson might ask, "How many bottles do you need?" or "How many would you like?" At that point, even if you only respond with
하나요.
or,
한 병이요.
the salesperson will understand that you want one bottle. And if you're unable to say,
한 병이요.
you can simply indicate one bottle with your finger. In the case that the salesperson asks what brand of bottled water you would like, you could say,
아무거나 주세요.
or,
아무거나요.
which means anything is fine. If you prefer a certain brand, you can use the second principle of goal-oriented communication to identify the brand name before visiting the convenience store. To make sure the convenience store has the brand you prefer in stock, you can say, "The brand you prefer, plus,"
있어요?
which means "Do you have the brand I prefer?" In this way, by using the strategy of transmitting information piece by piece, you can successfully communicate in various Korean communication situations, even as a beginner. To summarize, today's lecture focused on the 5 principles for mastering survival Korean communication skills. By applying these principles to your daily interactions, you'll effectively develop the Korean language skills needed to navigate life in Korea. The first principle is to understand and use key expressions for each step in common purchasing activities. The second principle is goal-oriented communication, which involves preparing and practicing necessary expressions before engaging in specific conversations to enhance your communication efficiency. You can identify the necessary expressions for specific conversations using the third principle, universal core. This principle helps you understand common features in communication across different countries or cultures, making it easier to navigate conversations in various situations. More importantly, if you understand the universal core and apply it to Korean communication, you can practice Korean expressions not only in Korea but also in your own country, allowing you to master survival Korean more efficiently. The fourth principle, sharing responsibility for conversation, enables you to communicate successfully in Korean, even with limited language skills. Finally, the principle of transmitting information piece by piece encourages you to break down information into smaller, manageable parts to communicate more effectively, even with limited proficiency. By applying these principles, you'll quickly and efficiently master your survival Korean communication skills. In our next lecture, we will explore how to apply these principles to various communication scenarios to further enhance your Korean proficiency. Thank you for participating in today's class. I look forward to seeing you next time, where we will put these principles into practice and delve into more practical communication strategies. See you in the next lecture.